This is the grip control installation for the Smith & Wesson M&P M2.0. There are some little tricky spots in here, so you'll need to pay attention, but it's really not too bad at all. So, before we begin, as always, we want to make sure the gun is completely safe. So let's drop the mag, cycle the gun 3 times, lock the slide back, check the chamber, make sure it's clear. We are clear. Now we're ready to begin. So, first thing we do is lock the slide back, rotate the takedown lever clockwise to 6 o'clock position, release the slide, then in a safe direction, pull the trigger, the slide should come right off. Now, we are going to need to take and push these 2 pins out. Nothing special about doing it, they actually come out very easily. So, first I'm going to take our little tool and I'm just going to push on the pin and it'll just come right out. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other pin. I'm just going to push on it and it'll pull right out. With both of those pins out, we're simply going to lift this assembly just a little bit, and while doing that I'm going to take the lever and I'm just going to pull it straight toward me and it'll just pop right out of there. Okay, that one was a little tough, but they come and go. And so with that out, I'm going to take the grip control and I'm going to keep it in the exact same orientation. I'm going to slide it right back in and line it up with the other side and pop it in. Then I'm going to push the assembly back down. Now I simply need to replace the 2 pins. So a little trick is there is a spring right here, and that spring has to get caught by the trigger pin. And what we want to do is take our little tool and feed it in the opposite side, and we want to capture that spring right there. I can see it there, and now I have that spring captured, and I push the tool all the way through, and I can see the tool right there. So I can test it by pulling the trigger, and you can see it's spring loaded, which means I do have the spring. If I didn't have the spring, it would have no rebound at all. It would just stick, okay? So again, I'm going to refeed that back in. So I bring my tool in there, feed it back in, capture that spring. Okay, that spring is captured. I have a spring there. I said this is the tricky part of this whole thing. We get past this, we're done. So now I take my trigger pin and I place it back in that hole and I push it up against my little tool, and I can feel it rocking back and forth, right? I can move that thing back and forth. So I'm going to rock my little tool while I'm rocking this pin, and it'll find its way and feed its way all the way through. And there we go. Now I test to make sure I have my spring loaded. I do. So that's good. And now I'm simply going to take this pin and I'm going to push this pin in that hole, push it down. You may take this little tool and use it as a flat to push it, and that's it. And we are done. So orientate the grip control to the 6 o'clock position. Take the slide, put the slide on the frame, rack it back, lock it, release the grip control, release, and we're done. Now to remove the grip control, we're going to do everything in the opposite direction. We're going to lock the slide back, rotate the grip control to the 6 o'clock position, release the slide, pull the trigger, and then we're going to take our little tool, push the pin out. Now this pin has to line up with that hole, so I'm going to keep it in that way. I actually can push this way if I want to. Either way, it doesn't matter which way you go. So I pull that that way, push it a little bit more, pull it out. Then again, I lift this assembly up just a hair, rotate this to the 6 o'clock position, and pull out the grip control. Okay, then I take the original lever, put it back in, feed it to the other side, click, assembly down, feed in my tool, capture my spring, twist it around, a little wiggle wiggle, get that spring located. Can be a little tricky, so as I said, this is the tricky part. I've got my spring, there it is. Take my trigger pin, put it in, feel my other tool, walk it back and forth, wiggle wiggle, 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 wiggle. Back and forth, wiggle, wiggle. It's being a little stubborn. Put it, there it goes. Then I need to put this pin back in. Can go this way, can go this way, doesn't really matter. Push it in, click, there we go. Slide back on. Lock, back, release, bang, bang. Removal complete. That's the installation for the Smith & Wesson M&P M2.0.